Yep, we're in. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to an episode of Teen Talk here at Nexus Youth and Family Services, a podcast where we get a chance to dive into mental health from the perspective of today's youth. We will be discussing real-life mental health problems and talking about how mental health affects our teens. Each podcast will have teens from our community talking about their mental health, wellness, and bringing awareness in an anonymous format. I'm really surprised I can say anonymous correct every single time. Unfiltered and with current issues. So I'm your co-host, Dalen. I work at Nexus Youth and Family Services in the therapy department, and I've worked with children and teens for a long time as an educator, school administrator, now transformed into the beautiful butterfly of a therapist. And I'd like to introduce my lovely co-host, Jessica Walling.
Hey everybody, it's Jessica. I am also a therapist here at the Nexus Youth and Family Services Therapy Department. I've also worked in the healthcare field for over 15 years, and mental health is by far my greatest interest, and I'm very excited to facilitate today's discussions.
So before we introduce our guest today, I just want to encourage everyone to be aware of their feelings on mental health issues and know that the topics we discuss are pretty heavy and can be triggering for those listening. And if you should be conscious of kind of how you feel, and check on your own mental health needs and seek help if needed. This podcast is not meant to be therapy or advice to the listener. If you feel that you need support, please reach out to Nexus. If we can't help, we can help you find services or other referrals to your local area. Our website is www.nexusyfs.org. And our phone number is 209-257-1980, extension 101. And if you find yourself in a psychiatric emergency, please dial 911 or the new number for suicide emergencies, which is 988. Some people like to text, and they can text a counselor. Text to the number 741-741, and then you can text and talk to a counselor. So we have our first guest today, Phoebe, which is an alias, as we're keeping all of our underage clients. Their actual identities are confidential. So, Phoebe, we are happy to have you in the studio today, and we're really excited to kind of hear about your story and the experiences that you've gone through so far.
How you doing today, Phoebe?
I'm doing good.
Yeah. Will you share with us a little about yourself, some of your interests, what grade you're in, just a little background so that our listeners can kind of get to know who you are and where you're at in life?
I'm 16 years old. I really like cats. I like to play soccer, and I enjoy drawing.
Yeah. Is there any other sports activities you like to participate in?
Cross country.
You like to run.
Yeah.
You like to run a lot. There's a lot of running involved with
So,
cross country.
Are you like one of the jumpers, or are you like a sprinter, long distance?
Long distance, but I also do pole vault.
So you run down with a big giant
what?
pole, and you dig it into a divot, and then you throw your legs up in the air, and you haul yourself over, like up in the air.
Yeah.
Has that thing ever like broken, like you fall on your head?
No.
Okay. I think that might have happened to Jessica when she was in high school. What?
You know, when you're in high school, you do like a whole like track and field thing for PE, and it was just not pretty. I know. I commend you for that. That takes a lot of body strength.
Yeah.
So what's the trick? Strength. Like, is it like upper body, or is it like how fast you go?
Well, it's how fast and also upper body.
And there's like a fling technique, right? And you gotta like arch your back.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's your personal record?
Yeah. 8'6".
Okay, you have to explain that. What does that mean?
8 feet 6 inches.
I don't know these things.
Yeah.
That's really tall. That's like ceiling height. Like, wow.
And so
that's amazing.
I'm assuming that you're running down and you're like, focus, like, right, running down. And then when you set that pole, like, does your heart just like everything just start to jump out of your chest as you're like excited that you're like, I'm going for it?
Yeah.
Is there any like background music when you're doing this?
No.
No. Not
Is it dead silent?
Yeah.
No. There's no like Rocky theme or anything?
No.
No.
No Eye of the Tiger?
No.
No? Okay. I just imagine that
Phoebe
people that really do cool things like that.
likes quiet. I have learned.
Yeah.
like when we work together and we do projects and stuff, like, some clients like to play music.
Mm-hmm.
Phoebe enjoys my awkward silence and my talking.
Oh, okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nothing at all.
Okay, so you're 16, you like to play sports. Where are you at in school?
I'm a junior, and school's a bit difficult for me.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's hard to focus on my schoolwork, and I procrastinate a lot and put it aside. And I find the social groups in school very difficult to deal with, and I have a lot of friend troubles.
Yeah.
And I think school is a big part of my mental health.
Yeah. And it's hard because it's something that we, as teenagers, have to do.
Yeah.
Got to go to school. You can't choose not to do it, right? Now, you want to tell us a little bit about your classes and the type of classes that you choose to take?
I take a few AP classes, which are more difficult than the regular college prep classes.
Yeah.
I only take like one or two, though, to not stress myself out too much.
Sure. Which ones do you take?
I take AP Lang and APES, so AP Environmental Science.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to wait, what is that? We didn't have that class.
And I'm going to assume that AP Lang is AP language, like
Yeah.
English,
Yeah.
Language arts?
language arts.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned words? All right.
Yeah. So much fun.
So what do you like about that class? Are you a good writer?
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
No.
Is it because it's just a lot of extra work, or the teacher, or what?
Well, I never wanted to take AP classes, but I took it because all my friends took it, so now I'm in like a bunch of AP classes, but I don't really like them.
Okay. Too much work?
Yeah.
A lot of stress to perform?
Yeah.
Yeah. We do that.
We do.
that. We do that to our teenagers. We put a lot of stress on the AP classes.
Because the AP classes are supposed to help with the future. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to. So you chose AP classes because your friends were. Can you kind of describe that feeling that created that desire or need to take those classes?
I felt pressured because I didn't want to be left out. I didn't want my friends to be talking at the lunch table about their AP classes, and I was just I wouldn't be able to give my, chime in to their conversations. And I also felt like I would be deemed less intelligent than them if I were just in regular classes.
Yeah.
So I don't want to understate what you said, because that is a huge driving factor. I totally get that. But just a quick question for you. Is that something that you think everybody talks about or feels in the AP system at school? Or do you think it is your personal bias? Like, you think that maybe I just feel that way?
I think a few people feel that way, but not the majority.
Okay. And is there a tiered system? Is there AP, college prep, and then regular classes?
Well, college prep are regular classes, so
Okay.
it's AP college prep, and that's about it.
Okay, so it's either AP or college prep.
Yeah, and I think some high schools have like you said, the leather,
Yeah.
below the college prep for those who need it. But I don't think those are the standard part, of course.
Yeah. So A through E requirements get you into college. So at least at the state level, and then there's some courses that don't qualify you for college, but they qualify you for a diploma. So it depends on which track you are. And there's some high schools, and maybe our local high schools. I haven't dug into this, but they might have everybody on the A through E requirements to make sure that they're qualifying for college at the same time. But then,
Dropping knowledge over there.
yeah, that whole former educator thing.
Yeah.
So you don't like these courses.
No.
What do you like in school?
I like getting out of my house, and I like how productive school makes me feel.
Okay.
Okay.
That's super insightful.
Yeah. Well, it's a good feeling to have, right? Accomplished.
When you say that kind of vibrated with me. I'm like, yeah, I liked school because I got to get out of my house.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't like all the homework, but I definitely liked feeling productive. You know, you're turning stuff in, you've got projects, some classes that you do like. So, you know, that work tends to be fun. I was a band geek, so I like doing all that stuff. What? Oh, no, don't do it.
It's the only one I could reach.
Yeah.
I had to. I'm sorry. Poor Dalen. Okay, so you liked getting out of class, or out of class. You like getting out of the house and doing things. Is that also what drives your extracurriculars? Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How long have you played sports?
I played sports. Well, I started in high school, so for not that long.
So about 3 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it something you think you would do in college?
No.
Oh no. Oh,
Why?
tell me about that.
That would be too stressful.
Yeah.
And
Intense.
there was a time when I started exercising a lot in middle school because I felt like I needed to keep exercising to keep my weight down to the standard weight. And so it started to be brought into wanting to play sports. So that's why I started sports in high school, but I've grown past that and now I just like them. I like hanging out with people and meeting new people, but in the beginning it was because of trying to keep my weight down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you mentioned that you like to meet new people, but we also were discussing a second ago that like the social game at school is really hard. So how do those affect you? Where you really like to meet new people, you like to be social, but this is what I got to deal with. What's that look like?
It's difficult because I don't like the social standards at school, like the hierarchy and stuff. So it's hard to just walk up to a group of people and ask if you can sit with them at lunch because they could be like considered popular or something like that. And I don't like labels like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like sports, it's a little bit more random. Like there's people from many different groups put in on one team. So I get to talk to everyone, and in soccer, we can't really be mad at each other. Like, we have to be friendly and be friends. So we say no beef on the field because we're all friends there. So I feel more connected with them because it was like a genuine friendship instead of like just the normal, like, oh, can I sit with you at lunch? And they say yes.
I like that you bring that up because a lot of people don't hear about those types of benefits from high school sports or just sports in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said it perfectly. It puts all sorts of groups on the field. Coach creates an environment where everybody's open, right? And it creates we're all friends on the field, no beef. Sometimes there's cliques, sometimes you like on a sports team and it's like there's a group of people that have been playing together for like years and it's like, they click. But if a coach is adept at running their team, they can kind of dissolve that and make sure that everybody feels welcome.
So yeah, that led me into the question, like, is this like this whole no beef on the field, is this a coach desire or this is like what you need in order to play the game? Like,
It's what we need to play the game. Like, not even, I mean, our coach encourages it, but also if we're fighting with each other, the game will just go bad and it's just not good.
So has there ever been a time where you like couldn't keep that civility on the field? Like you guys didn't get along? Has there ever been an issue or do you feel like it's always been really managed really well?
I feel like there's some small issues, but the issues are kept to they're not talked about enough, I feel like. We just push them aside.
Is that like a good thing?
A bad thing.
Bad thing.
Because
so they need to be talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also like I would rather keep those issues kept like aside for now because it's just the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily also want to be the one to bring it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That goes into creating that environment where things can be discussed and a platform for that, right? And is that even available for our teens to deal with?
I think it's tough.
It
I think
is
it's
tough.
real tough. I think it takes a coach being really open and having, players being able to talk to the coach. Because, like, let's say, Phoebe, you bring, hey, we need to talk about this as a team, but I don't want to be the one to bring it up and I don't want to be called out. And you can trust your coach to
Right.
facilitate that. Go, hey,
Yeah.
I've been aware that this is kind of happening. Let's talk about some things that are happening. Here's topic. And then you can get a whole group discussion. And it's like that needed to happen.
Yeah, especially when you find that like sports activities are a self-care for some. Like that's their
Self-care for all, I think. Yeah.
but the exercise, the outlet that you get out of it and everything it does for you, if that's your coping and that's your self-care, being able to also have that space to say, hey, this is invading that. This needs to be addressed, and giving that space for people is really important. So how is socially at school? We talked about how like sports is an even playing field, but can we dive a little more into what socially looks like at school?
You used a really fun word. You used hierarchy.
Yeah, I want to dive into
I
that.
love hierarchies.
Yeah.
And so what is the school hierarchy that you're
Well,
talking about?
there's just different groups. Like, a lot of people name certain groups, such like there's probably a group of popular girls who everyone knows. And along with that group, at the very top are popular boys who everyone knows. And I've also noticed that the groups are very separated by gender. Like, they don't really mix a lot, which I don't like. I've been trying to get groups to mix because I think it's just weird that all the females sit at one table and all the males sit at another table. I think we should normalize mixing friend groups. But there's the popular kids, and then a little bit lower, there's like just, I think it's a pretty big jump. I think it goes from popular to just like your average person, and then it goes down to like the people who are deemed weird at school for no reason. Like, a lot of people don't like drama kids, but I don't see why. I think that they're all very nice. And they also don't like the people who sit alone at lunch, which is also weird because what if they're just doing homework? Or what if they're just want to eat lunch alone? There's no problem with that. And I think it's a big part. Another big part about the social hierarchy is what you wear, which is stupid because people can't really choose what they wear sometimes. Yeah. And it's not really about your personality, but it's like about your looks, what you wear, how you act in class. If you're really quiet, I don't think you're not going to be high on the totem pole of groups.
Okay.
Hierarchies, totem poles, normalizing. I like these words.
I know.
These are good words.
So you didn't tell us what you wanted to do later in life. Not that you have to have it figured out, and I don't want to put any pressure on you, but do you have an inkling of an idea of what you might want to do as a older adult?
I think I want to do something with computer programming stuff.
Sweet.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit about that background in your life, where that stems from?
Well, my dad is a computer programmer, and he's always told me that he thinks that I would be a really good computer programmer. So deep down, I don't really know if I want to be a computer programmer. But my dad is, and he thinks I will be a good one, so I guess I could try it out.
Yeah, here I've tried to instill this concept, but we put a lot of pressure on teenagers to go, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Right.
And they're like, I don't even know what's out there. And then, there's some people that their parents give them some ideas because of what they do, right? But in today's environment, you're not doing one job for the rest of your life. This isn't the 50s anymore, right? So you could be a computer programmer for 3 years and then transition to something else like, oh, I'm a computer programmer, but now I really like app development. Oh, I really like digital marketing. And, you work for an app company, and then you're like, oh, I really like this whole digital. I really like the space of blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden now you're managing a team and now you're in a creative group. And it's because you started as a computer programmer, your life takes you through these really fun ways of going. So I think that could be a really great place to start.
I think we should ask Dalen how many careers he's had.
Oh, no. I've had a lot of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of jobs and I've had a few careers. So I started as a teacher, then got into, well, let me back up. I started as a composer. I wanted to get into the film industry, went down and wrote a couple.
I need a button for that.
And I didn't really like the environment. I didn't like the industry.
Yeah.
Kind of like you're talking about the social hierarchies.
It can be toxic too, though.
Can be? Oh.
I know it is,
Yeah.
but it's
So then
hard.
I'm like, I'll just be a teacher. And so I did that for a long time. I really liked that. And then got into school administration and then got burnt out on that and then started my own business and I drove a big rig. So I was an owner-operator for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then realized there's not a lot of, excitement. And then went back to do clinical psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now I'm here.
Dalen has worn many, many hats, and I don't just mean because he likes to wear hats.
Yeah.
Because he does.
But I do like to wear hats.
You do. You do. Drop in that knowledge, Dalen.
Yep.
That life experiences, and that's something that I think is important for teens to consider. Like, you don't have to have this one set path forever. And looking to someone who's done a lot of things is really great because you have the knowledge and experience that you can express and give to the teens. It's not all about being, I have to do this and I have to take AP classes and I have to succeed. It's not all about that perfect picture anymore. And giving our teens the space to find that is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You really, really like art. You talked about earlier about how you like to draw and do art. And what is that? Is that one of your outlets, or is that something that you just do for fun? What does that look like for you?
I think sometimes I use it as a coping mechanism, but mostly it's just for fun.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about art and using that in the therapy room and how that works for you. You want to talk a little bit about what that experience has looked like?
I think it helps me express how I'm feeling a lot better because I don't have to really use words. I can just draw it.
Yeah. It gives you the space to express something that maybe isn't quite ready to come out verbally, right?
Yeah.
Or we don't want to think about it too much and really sit there. Therapy doesn't have to be the typical sitting on the couch talking to someone forever. It's not what it all has to look like. It can be very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Phoebe, tell me your process when you're creating art in a therapeutic situation. So there's a prompt, right, where you're working on. Can you maybe recount the last thing that you've worked on? You don't have to talk about why, but just kind of like what your process was and how you felt after that project.
Well, I was working on making a little, like a mask, and on the front of it would be what people see and what I show people, and then on the back would be like what's really going on, like inside, and what I don't tell people what's happening.
And then going through that process, what did you notice?
I noticed how different I am to other people than what I actually am, and how much I hide and try to keep on the low because I don't want them to know.
And finishing the project, looking back at like what you just created and having those insights into yourself, what were your thoughts after that?
I think some of the things that I hide are necessary because I don't want to ruin any relationships or friendships, like stuff like that, because it will just make everything harder. And it's the stuff that I hide I can handle hiding, I mean, I wouldn't recommend hiding anything really big, but I think that personally I need to hide some things to keep everything calm.
I think that's huge. Sometimes in the therapy session, we take a moment to kind of let that sit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you just said is a brain explosion. It's like, I hide things because I don't want it to ruin my relationships. And I realize I need to hide things, and I'm okay with it because they're not that big. And then so somebody listening to this goes, whoa, I do that too. Or they don't realize that they're hiding things. They just do it naturally. It's like their undercover, persona. And they're like, I do that too. So that's, it's amazing that you had that insight.
Can we, for sake of, clarification, and so that, viewers who are listening feel like, I really hide things, but how do you determine what you're okay with hiding and what you feel is too big to hide?
Well, I think what I'm okay with hiding is past self-harm, because it can change someone's view on you if they know. And from past experiences, it's not fun to have them know. Sometimes people react differently. You'll never know how they'll react. And if they react badly, you could lose a very close friend. But I think that talking about self-harm and stuff like that needs to be done in a therapy office and not in your friend group, because some people seek their friends because that's who they feel closest to. But if you're friends with other teenagers, that could go down badly. They could all be experiencing that and not know how to help each other, or they could think, oh, that's not normal, and stop talking to you and stuff like that. So I think that self-harm needs to be kept private from friend groups.
So in our last session, we've talked about some things that happened, and if you're comfortable, would you like to let our listeners know about how you were outed before you were ready and what that felt like for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The story of how my parents found out started with we were eating dinner, and I was sitting down next to my dad, and he looked down at my legs and he said, oh, what's this scratch? And my mom was like, oh, that looks pretty bad. Let's go fix that up. So she takes me into her room, and I know what it is, but she doesn't understand what it is yet. So I have to verbalize to her that it's self-harm, and she starts freaking out. And it scared me because she was like crying. And my dad was just silent, and my sister was the only one comforting me. She gave me a hug. And a couple weeks after that, it was really rough because they treated me differently. I felt like they wouldn't talk to me the same, and they would like baby me or not joke around with me anymore. And then eventually my friends found out through me feeling like the need that I need to tell them, because I felt like my mood changed a lot and I became more quiet and less outgoing from what I usually am. And they all noticed, and it all kind of started to rip apart a friend group because like I wasn't the same that I always was. And so I felt the need to tell them. And at first I only wanted to tell like at least 2 of my friends. But then it ended up that I told the whole friend group, which I don't really like that I did now that I see it, because they now treat me differently, and I don't like that. I want it to go back to normal, but it can't. And also, there was one friend, when I told her, I felt like she started to treat me very differently. We were very close, and we hung out a lot over the summer. But then when she found out that I, that I self-harm, she just started to grow further away from me, and we don't hang out as much, and I feel like it's a very different environment when it's me and her alone.
So I have so many questions.
Before you get to that question, I would like for you to, because you touched on the part about having to tell your friends.
Yeah.
Can you explain to our listeners how that really developed? Because it wasn't something you just chose to do socially. This was something that happened. They went to...
Oh, yeah. 2 of my friends went to our school counselor, and they told the counselor that I was having some mental health issues, and I was pulled into the counselor's office, and they were already in there sitting down, and then I sat down, and then the counselor was saying, Phoebe, your 2 friends brought you in here because they were concerned about you. But I wasn't ready to let the counselor know. I didn't want the counselor to know.
Right.
And they just went and talked to the counselor, and I understand that they were worried, but I told them because I thought that they could keep it to themselves, and they didn't. And then the counselor learned out, and it turned out fine, but I didn't. I was stressed out in that situation, and with everything that happened a few weeks before, it just made everything more stressful.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and Jess is writing me some notes just for timing coming up. When your parents found out, Dad notices something, Mom's like, let's go clean that up. Were you freaking out inside? Like, oh no, this is about to happen. They're about to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were your thoughts? Were you trying to control the situation?
Yeah, I was trying to lie and say oh, I just fell. It's not that big of a deal. I've already put stuff Neosporin on it, but she wasn't letting that slide, and I found it really difficult when she still wasn't understanding what was going on, because I feel like this kind of stuff for her isn't normalized. So she didn't understand, and I hated the fact that I needed to basically yell at her that it wasn't just a cut,
Yeah, it's been self-harm has been around for a long time, but like you said, it's not normalized. So there are a generation of adults that don't understand, and it's very common not to understand from a parent's point of view why this is happening. And you said that your parents started treating you different, and that's because they don't know what to do. There is not a manual for parents that go, well, when your kid goes through this, turn to page 242. Oh, this is how you handle that situation. There's no manual.
There's not.
Based on your parents' experience and how they grew up and how they were parented, they might be better equipped at handling that situation, or they might be horrible at handling that situation. And one of the, if there are parents listening to this, changing the way you treat your child can also be worse. Like you mentioned, not joking around anymore, not kidding around. All of the good parts about your relationships, now they're tempering everything, and they're like, oh my gosh, kid gloves, we need to treat you very softly. Oh no, we got to make sure that we're not contributing to this problem.
It's
It becomes really tough for everybody to manage.
one of the things I think we get the most out of all of our clients, at least for me, I don't know about you, Dalen, but when they start to have these self-harm thoughts and feelings, parents want to like isolate and give you space and let you feel, but that's like the worst thing that they need. And they're screaming inside, don't isolate me, don't change. I need that constant normal to still be prevalent and present. And it's really hard. And kids don't feel like they can say, hey, mom, dad, don't do this. You know, like they don't have the space to be like, this isn't working for me, right?
Well, yeah, so great. So, Phoebe, let me ask you this question. So, in the moment, parents start acting different. Did you know, like, hey, I need you guys to treat me normal? Did you have, in that moment, were you like, hey, this is what I need? Were you able to talk to them about that? Did you know what you needed?
I knew what I needed, but I wasn't able to verbalize it. I needed my mom to not freak out as much. And because she freaked out so bad, it put me in a situation where if I began to self-harm again, I don't want to talk to her about it because I'm scared that she'll react the same way. I just wanted her to stay calm and ask and just sit me down and just have a talk instead of her like frantically running around the house screaming and crying.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you just said is huge.
I was going to say, that was big.
Yep. And I hope somebody gets a chance to hear that
I do
and maybe make, an informed decision next time. So I don't know how long ago this happened, but my question to you from that moment, now that you've realized what you needed, have you been able to communicate with either parent on those feelings?
No.
No. Okay. Is that something that you want to be able to do?
No.
Because you don't want to deal with it with him anymore?
I don't feel close enough with my parents.
Okay. I hear that.
I think one of the, and like you said, there's no manual. We're just going through life. We're just going through life trying really, really hard not to screw up our kids, right? That's our main goal as parents. Just don't screw up your kid. But there needs to be a form of psychoeducation because I think it's important for parents to remember that while you are totally panicked inside because you can see your child going through something really, really hard, but putting your emotions as an adult on our kids is unhealthy. It's not something that our teenagers need to be responsible for. They're not responsible for our feelings. And that's where you had that moment where mom is freaking out, dad is shutting down, and the only person who's really helping you in that moment is someone similar or close enough in age, right? Because your sister is how many years older than you?
She's 2 years older than me.
Right. So someone who a little more prevalent and understands was the one person comforting you, but the one person you wanted to turn to, you didn't have that option.
Yeah.
That can be really, really hard and heavy. Mr. Dalen.
No, when you hear that, I think, there's going to be a bunch of people that maybe listen to this, both, students, teens, and parents.
Yeah.
And I've been a teen. I work with teens, but I'm also a parent, so it's, for me, it's hard to hear that too.
It is. And, thinking about, you had said, about how self-harm isn't normalized. I have memories from high school when my friends were going through something and they were choosing to self-harm. Like, it's been around for a really long time, and it's something that, is shh. Don't talk about it, right? Don't think about what's going on and how to handle it and what's the step to take. And,
Well, so let me ask the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Phoebe, you ready for this one? This is the $1 million question. And this is one of the reasons why parents freak out.
Yeah.
They don't know why you're doing it. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I've often found that kids don't know why they're doing it either. So it's not like we can just ask you, why are you doing this? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, it could be, I don't want to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, I'm not fully sure why. Or it could be that you don't understand what's happening. You just know that you're compelled. You feel like this push to do this. So my $1 million question for you, and this is individual to you, this isn't everybody, so please don't take this question and the answer to it and generalize it to everybody, but why do you self-harm?
Because it is a way for me to feel relieved without taking that one step forward to doing something worse.
And relieved from what?
Stress, like depression, anxiety, family, friends, all of it just piling onto one big thing.
And so you're carrying that. So maybe these are things that you're keeping silent and you're keeping pushed down, numbing, trying not to feel all of that stuff that's overwhelming you. And cutting your flesh releases what? Like, what do you feel in that moment?
But I feel like it releases anger, sadness, stress, like a lot of it does help control my emotions.
Okay. And I don't think people hear that enough.
No.
That's a really big explanation. And not only does it release all of that, but because of that release, you found an easy solution that you can keep to yourself and hide, and you want to do it again.
Yeah.
And there's something that she said that was very important, and I want to make sure I touch base on that. You do this in order not to do something worse, right? A lot of, I think a lot of people see the self-harm and they panic. But we actually have a term that we use that's actually called non-suicidal self-harm, where you're using it because you don't want to take that step. And this is something that you're using in order to prevent that measure of wanting to go further. And so if you can, we've discussed this before, if you felt like you could not harm yourself and give yourself that release, what would the outcome look like for you?
I think it would look pretty bad.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't think that parents, if they find out that their kid is self-harming, they shouldn't take away what they're using to self-harm with. At least for the time being, until they can talk to someone.
Okay.
But coming from my perspective...
No, I like the fact that you said that. You saw our reactions, and
She did.
She got a little smile on her face. She's like, "Oh, I'm triggering them right now."
Oh, it was definitely a...
No, but you bring up a really valid point.
Yeah, it is.
And the point is that you have a coping mechanism to deal with all of your stress, and parents want to stop you from hurting yourself. So if they take that away, now they've taken your outlet away, and you haven't developed another outlet to help, right? So now they've taken away the only thing that you had, and then now everything's building. So not only is it the stress of the situation, parents finding out that you're self-harming,
Right.
and that whole stuff, that whole problem that you just talked about, but now your outlet on how to deal with that has been taken away, and then what happens next? It gets worse, right?
Yeah.
It gets worse for you.
And,
But then you followed up
She did, and that's
with,
where...
and this is important, so then you followed up with...
that parents shouldn't take their resources away until after they start getting help from therapy and finding new coping mechanisms, then you can begin to take away what they use to self-harm. But I think that is very important until they start to talk to a therapist, that we let them still have the option, because whatever they do through self-harm, it could be as worse as taking that extra step further, but it also couldn't, and it could just tide them over until they find a new coping mechanism.
That's where it becomes very gray. This is not a black and white subject.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily, as a therapist, it's not necessarily every therapist's view on that
Right.
either.
Absolutely.
So this is Phoebe's view,
Yes.
and that's okay to have that view. And in your situation, there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. I want to just kind of iterate to everybody listening, taking that next step. There is a wide range of what that means. And I'm thinking this podcast, we don't necessarily want to dance around an issue. So obviously the
absolutely
ultimate
not.
thing is, somebody following through with suicide. There was I listened to a really cool podcast the other day that talked about the concept of not using the word commit suicide anymore.
No, it's death by suicide.
Death by suicide, right? So,
It is
because when you
not
commit
commit.
something, you're doing something illegal, you're doing something
Right.
wrong, and it's
Right.
villainized and felonized, and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And what somebody's really needing is help, right?
Absolutely.
And so, by trying to take your life, there's following through and succeeding. There's people that now are going through the process of reaching out for help. They're saying they're going to commit suicide because they want help. There's people that try it and aren't successful and totally hurt themselves.
Yeah.
There's the mental health decline of feeling suicidal and feeling like you're out of control.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that can happen
And there's
after that.
even before reaching the suicide, it's where we are with Phoebe, right? It's that need to self-harm that can lead to it, which is, I think, where the scare really comes. And I think it's important that we make sure our listeners know that harming yourself is not a healthy option. We are not condoning harming yourself, but we also understand where Phoebe's coming from and why this is her choice and why this is something she is working on and coming to therapy, like she said, to find another way to cope healthily without harming herself.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to come back to that, Phoebe. So you said without developing other coping mechanisms. Did you know there was other coping mechanisms that you could try? Let's say, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, when you're in the thick of the problem, did you know that there were other coping mechanisms or other coping skills, but you just didn't know what they were? Or, so what were your thoughts on that?
I knew there were other coping mechanisms, but I didn't think that they would work as much as self-harm.
Okay. From talking with friends, do you think that is other people feel that way?
Yeah.
So they know there's other things out there, just it won't work as well.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that therapy wouldn't work for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that now?
It's okay. You can be honest. You can tell them I'm annoying. It's cool.
No, you're not annoying. I just don't like to talk about my feelings.
I think that's common for most teens.
Shoot, it's common for me. It's hard. Talking about
hard.
feelings is hard.
It's not easy stuff. But sometimes we have to force that, right? We have to talk about what's going on to better ourselves. But there's other types of therapy you can do, right? What type of therapy works for you?
Art.
Yeah. Art therapy is something that you like to do. Do you feel like art therapy is something that can become a stronger coping mechanism for you?
Yeah, if I work on it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a heavy discussion.
Mm-hmm.
This has been big.
Yeah. I really appreciate you opening up and talking to us about those issues.
Absolutely.
Can you guess how long we've gone?
No.
We're like at 49 minutes. We're almost at 50 minutes. So you've talked to us about a lot of really important things.
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you for sharing all of that with us. And any words of advice that you would give to teenagers that might eventually hear this, that are going through self-harm, what should they hear from somebody who's experienced it?
I think that they should know that. I think a very big thing that I want people to know is if you feel, once people find out that you self-harm, if you feel like people are judging you and saying, oh, they only did it for attention, or something like that, it's not bad if you did only do it for attention, because the big thing that I struggled with self-harm was I worried that people thought I was doing it for attention. But even if I am doing it for attention, that's still bad, because it shows that the amount of attention I need is to the point where I would hurt myself instead of just like doing something annoying to get people's attention. But this is more serious. And the fact that, like, if you harm yourself and vocalize it, that's still as bad as harming yourself and not vocalizing it, because either way, you're going to be deemed for doing it for attention, I feel like, from some people. And you just need to know that it's okay to do it for attention. I feel like a big part of it is for attention. The people who don't vocalize it just are too scared to ask for help. But then the people who do vocalize it truly want help, but they're deemed as like, oh, they're faking it because they asked for it, because they vocalized it.
Got it.
But I don't think anyone who's self-harm is faking it. I think the loud people and the quiet people both are going through the same things. And we shouldn't tell people who self-harm that they're doing it for attention.
Okay.
The stigmatism around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important not to degrade the value of what it means.
Right.
Yeah, and I also think that when talking to someone who self-harm, you shouldn't bring up other people, because I've experienced where I was talking to prior therapists about self-harm, and they brought up other people, and it didn't make me feel good, because I don't think that if you're talking about such a touchy subject, you shouldn't bring up other people. It will just make the person feel like they're not heard.
Okay. I think that's important to hear.
Yeah.
One more follow-up question. So if you're a teenager and you're self-harming right now, how do you ask for help? In your situation, how would you have asked for help?
If you trust your parents enough, I would ask my parents for help. But if you don't, then I think reaching out to any trusted adult for help, or a friend. I think reaching out to anyone who you trust enough is a good idea.
All right.
Yeah.
Boom.
Drop of knowledge.
Yeah. Thank you, Phoebe.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was. All right, guys. We will see you next time on Teen Talk.
On Teen Talk. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.